officially call the meeting to order. Sorry, official. And I'd like to announce a very special guest for tonight's meeting, which is our long-term county legislator and now state representative, Tom Abbinanti. Tom, how long have you been in office?
He's mute. Tom, you're muted right now. There we go.
Yeah.
You there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can't see me for some reason. Why is that?
I don't know. Let me see if, yes. Oh, here, I'm going to send a button there so you can start your
Join
video.
that video, right?
There we go.
Oh,
There you go.
Came and went. There he is. Okay. Hi, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hey, Tom.
Nice to see all of you. I haven't seen you in a long, long time.
Yeah. I was just asking, Tom, how long have you now been in an elected office?
I've been an assemblyman for 10 years. I was a county legislator for 19, and I was a town councilman for 6.
Whoa.
So I guess that's a lot of time in office.
Yeah. It's,
I call that experience. That's what I call it. Call that experience.
Well, I will tell you, it is helpful in a time like this,
Yeah.
where you want to be able to understand what's going through the minds of the other people that you're dealing with. I did actually serve twice as a prosecuting attorney for villages, for Ardsley and for Dobbs Ferry. So even there, I got to see the point of view of the villages. And as a town councilman, I was kind of in your situation. County legislator, I sit on the phone every day and we talk to the governor's office with their staff. And, you know, county executive is on and his staff is on. So I see their viewpoint. And we assembly members are working pretty well together. We are asking questions in tandem in a way. And you see, we hear from our constituents and from, elected officials, what's working, what isn't working. And so together we're trying to give a picture to the governor's office. I just got off the call. In fact, it started at 5:30. We ended about 6:30. The biggest issue seems to be unemployment insurance.
It's awful.
Yeah.
We're just having great difficulty getting all of the people in. And I suggested to them the other day, I said, wait a minute, everybody's got to recertify every week. Do you really think that somebody is going to find the job and not tell you? Why don't you make it every 2 weeks? So you get some of the people off the phone, so everybody's not calling every week, which is overwhelming the system. It's that kind of stuff that we give back to them. And we give them suggestions and they come back with answers for us. One of the things we're doing right now, and anybody who's listening or watching right now, if you have a problem with unemployment insurance and it's been a long-term problem, if you just called last week, don't expect you're going to get service. But if you called back in the beginning of March or something like that, call my office. We'll try to get you onto a list. We get a lot of people call, and some of them just started to apply, and we say, no, it's going to take a while. The system's overwhelmed. But if you applied in March, in the beginning of March or middle of March, and nobody's called you and nothing's happened with your application, then give us a call. We'll add you to a list and we'll pass it on to the governor's office for special attention. Because what they're trying to do is figure out which are the most difficult cases, direct those cases to people in the Department of Labor who deal with difficult cases, and leave the easier cases to they apparently tried to hire 1,000 new people to handle these. And so the new people are not going to be able to deal with the difficult cases, but they can deal with the easier cases. So I see your counsel is here. We've worked together for many years on many different things. So
Hi, Tom. Yeah, so let me put a pitch in here. For my daughter who's not in your district, she and her husband are both musicians, freelance musicians. And they put in the very beginning and have not seen a penny.
They've applied for the special federal program.
The PUA.
Correct.
Not
Yeah,
a
we were
penny.
talking about that. I don't think the governor's office, I don't think the system was up and running when most people applied. I have the sense that system wasn't running until maybe mid-April or the beginning of April. And so there's such a backlog, they're working their way through it.
Okay.
Send me a text, let me know, or an email. I will make sure that she gets the name and the telephone number of the assembly member who represents her.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
is she in Westchester?
No, she's in Brooklyn. She knows. So I told her to get in touch with the assemblyman. It's just really an outrageous situation, though. There's supposedly all the money out there. Somebody like that has parents who can help her out, but there are all kinds of other people in that position. I don't know how they're feeding themselves.
Well, 2.5 weeks ago, the state had already put out about $2.5 billion in unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
And they were looking for a $4 billion loan to carry them over until the federal money started to flow. Because the governor said that he was going to put out the money, whether we got the reimbursement from the feds or not, and then look to the feds for it. But I think he's, I think we're a little overwhelmed. There's an awful lot of money going out the door and not a lot coming in. I was told by the speaker that we had already put out $8 billion in short-term notes and $3 billion in bonds. These are billions. So we're talking here, that alone is what, 13, about 6, 14, 17, it's like $18 billion that went out the door, and this was 2.5 weeks ago.
Whoa.
So that's a lot of money. What I was going to do is just give you a quick, just so people understand the financial cost of this whole thing. We passed a regular New York State budget, and we fought very hard to preserve the status quo, to make sure the school districts got at least what they got last year, to make sure the villages got at least what they got last year. I know we put money back in for the CHIPS program. I'm sure you get a little bit of that, not a lot, but at least something for the roads. And the governor was cutting the whole thing out, and we insisted on putting it all back. But that totaled to about $176 billion. But we don't even know that all of that money is going to be spent because there's such a major expense in response to COVID. And so what we did in addition to that was we authorized spending without knowing where the money was going to come from. So this is spending appropriations of $1.2 billion for education, $43 billion for unemployment insurance, $4 billion for a public health emergency, and an unforeseen contingency in the amount of $25 billion. So if we spend all of this money, and then the debt service allow the governor to borrow $11 billion, which he's already done. So if we spend all of this money and federal funds don't come in, a lot of that $176 billion is going to have to go to pay for the COVID response. And we're not even sure the $176 billion worth of revenues are going to come in, given what's happening to the economy. So it's a dire circumstance, and I'm not usually one who applauds this particular governor. We've had, even though we're both Democrats, we've had a lot of disagreements, but I think he deserves a debt of gratitude here for stepping up and providing the leadership that he has. He makes people feel much more comfortable knowing that there's somebody in charge, and there's somebody trying to deal with this in a good faith way and trying to make the state respond and help people. And I try to tell them that even if you haven't gotten your unemployment insurance yet, he hired 1,000. They told us they hired an extra 1,000 people to try to make this work. So, I commend him for that. I hope he doesn't reach into the rest of the budget. I did not want to see a budget which would allow cuts in Medicaid or allow cuts in education or allow cuts in other aid to localities. So we put those numbers in, but there was a catch-all in there that the governor had the right to propose cuts. And if we didn't respond within, I think it was 30 days, if we didn't call session and go in and come up with a better plan, then his cuts would go into effect. So, that's not the best of all worlds, but at least it's going to get us through this whole problem. And, we're talking about reopening. Again, they were talking today. Apparently the governor in his call today laid out, I think it was 7 or 9 points that he was going to use in determining whether various parts of the state could reopen.
Yes,
But even,
That's right.
Yeah, but even there, we're still having, I think the numbers today, we still statewide had 230 something people die. and there's still more cases, the people going to the hospital. The number of new cases is deceptive because we're doing a lot of testing now. So you're going to pick up a lot more people who have COVID than you had before. But if you look at the number of people who are being hospitalized, that number is still dropping, but it's not dropping enough, you know, to make people feel comfortable. So even if we talk about reopening the economy, I know I was talking to the mayor the other night about something, and we had planned to have dinner together and have a drink somewhere along the way. We never got a chance to do it. But we're not going to feel comfortable going to a restaurant, even in Irvington, unless we're sure that the cases are gone. Because you don't want to be that one person who happens to come across the handful of people who have COVID, and you're going to catch it. So, you know, we've got to really be, it doesn't matter what the governor says. And I think they're finding that in some of the southern states. They were talking about reopening. And I know on Friday, the governor of Mississippi backed off on his plans to fully reopen. Because all of a sudden there was a major spike in the number of cases. So we have to be careful to make sure that the cases are really far down before people are going to have confidence to go out into the public and to go to restaurants and to bars and to movie theaters and things like that. We might feel comfortable going to the cleaners or going to the liquor store and picking up a bottle of wine, but there's not a lot of interaction there. So the governor's plan, I think, was to try to figure out where are the low-risk places. Let's try opening them first, then go to the medium risk, and then go to the high-risk places. I know on the phone today, one member of the assembly was saying, well, what about reopening the elective surgeries for hospitals? Because that's where hospitals make their money, you know, from a money point of view. And frankly, I don't know. I don't want to go to a hospital. I know our hospitalizations are down, and I gather in Irvington, the calls for people to go to the hospital for a sprained ankle or something like that are way down because people are afraid to go to a hospital these days. And so I don't know. I wouldn't go for elective surgery if you know, I'm afraid to go to the dentist if I had my teeth cleaned because I don't know who was sitting in that chair before me. So it's a scary situation. I saw on Facebook and I now use it all the time. A great analogy which said, just because your parachute has slowed your descent doesn't mean that you can take it off. And I think that's where we are right now. Just because we are starting to see daylight here doesn't mean the storm has passed. We really need to continue, because the reason we've been able to slow this down and never hit the peak that they were projecting was because the social distancing worked so well. You know, I've seen it. And if you take a look in those communities where there hasn't been the social distancing, or where you have a lot of people who are the workers, some of the poorer communities, those are the people who are doing the deliveries, those are the people who are working in the supermarkets, their rates are still pretty high. And I don't think they've leveled off. You take a look at Ossining or whatever, they still have pretty high rates. They have a lot of people who are the lower income workers who are still working and haven't been able to social distance. You go to an Irvington, you know, you're fortunate to have a lot of people. Most of my district is that way, it's like Irvington, you know. The numbers are relatively low because people have been able to work from home and to stay away from others. So it's, you know, that seems to be where we are. So the numbers are falling, but slowly, and we're not ready to reopen. I guess the last point I would discuss is village elections. Now, you have them, you were supposed to have them in March?
For November.
Oh, you're in November anyway. Oh, you've gone to, okay, so you're okay. All right, okay. Because there were a lot of villages that had their elections canceled.
Right.
The governor has now moved those to, I think it's September 15th.
Right.
And we'll see if in fact that happens.
Interestingly, for school board, you don't have to even petition now. You're just automatically on if you want to run.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a great idea.
It's one of the stranger things I've ever heard. But
Yes, me too. there's usually some kind of a showing of interest by the community or whatever. But the governor just does his own thing. That's the problem here. I was pushing, with respect to the elections themselves, I was pressing the speaker for us to do the legislation with respect to elections. I think we would have gotten a better plan. The governor's office has had a lot of people. We've been having these conversations on the phone with them about all of the things that need to be done. I mean, you're talking about the school board elections. I know one of my colleagues brought up in a conversation today, well, you're going to send out ballots to everybody who's registered. That alone is fraught with danger. But assuming you do that, what about the people who have the right to vote who don't register until after the ballots have been sent out? There's no process for them. What are you going to do about that? So everything and that's the problem with having just the executive branch making all of the determinations.
And I know, for instance, my daughter, who turns 18 on at the end of the month, May 24th, she registered, honestly, back in early March. I sent in her paper registration, and she's still not registered. So, we're hopeful that she and a bunch of people that, she actually went to school and signed up a bunch of her friends that were turning 18, getting ready for the primary, mostly in June. I'm sure they thought about the school election too, but the June 25th primary, which, was big, and they're not registered yet. And who knows if it's just there's not enough people filing that paperwork, who knows? So it's gonna be
I think one of my staff members may be on this call. I will ask her to take a note, and I'll take a note. We'll call the Board of Elections tomorrow
great.
and find out why this is happening. Is there a backlog?
Okay, that'd be great. Just because
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch of high school seniors who are very excited to vote.
Sure.
If they can't have a prom or a graduation, maybe they can vote.
Well, I would encourage them to go vote, and if they're
Right.
shown as not registered, fill out an affidavit ballot.
Yeah.
Fill out an
There's no
affidavit
in-person at all. That's the only thing, right? If there's no in-person at all, then that won't happen. But-
Well, you just raised another issue that I'm going to raise on the call with the governor's office tomorrow, because it follows what my colleague raised today. What about those other people? I am not the school boards are not going to like this, but some of us are going to push to have the school boards open for the vote that day. And if people come in and say they never got their ballot, then they should be able to fill out an affidavit ballot. And hopefully, if we keep this down to a small enough number, we can have proper social distancing.
Yep. I think if you have one polling place, you can have it spaced out like the Chicos figured it out, right? So we can do it.
Exactly. And they can just fill out the affidavit ballot, put it in a special box. The inspectors don't have to touch it. And then we can deal with it later.
Assuming that we need it, yeah.
Yes. And we're talking the same way about the village elections and the primary elections, where what we're trying to, well, I don't know on the village elections if the governor's going to give everybody a blanket ability to have an absentee ballot. But with the primary, the object is to encourage as many people as possible to use a mail ballot. But if you don't, you still will be able to come to a polling place. I don't think that has been figured out yet completely, but we're trying to make sure that there are going to be some polling places open for people who did not get the absentee ballot by mail or who just never filled it out. And I would guess that in that case, they would be given an affidavit ballot or some kind of a paper ballot that would be later counted. But we want to make sure that everybody gets to vote. We don't want to make our country less effective than South Korea. I mean, they've become, at the moment the reports are, they had a huge turnout in the middle of the COVID crisis, and they found a way to have elections. So we should certainly find a way to make sure that our primary goes forward, all of our other elections go forward, and of course that we have a big turnout in November.
Great.
So-
Well, Tom, we really appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you going to bat for some of the constituents I passed your way in the last few weeks. And lastly, we appreciate some of the funding grants that you got for us to help with our kind of gateway project down by the railroad station. I think that's going to be a wonderful project. hopefully we get it all up and running, and hopefully the money's still there. But it's something that we've talked about for at least 10 years, and to finally have some funding and be able to get it off the ground is great. And we really appreciate, you going to bat for us there.
Well, every once in a while, we get a little bit of capital funding. There was a time we used to get operating funding, a small amount, but we don't get that anymore. And we still do get some capital funding once in a while. And so what happens is we will get a project like yours, we'll present it to the Speaker's office. Ways and Means staff goes through it to make sure it fits some of the guidelines. And then it goes on to the governor's office, to the Department of Budget. And usually it's funded through one of the agencies. I'm not sure where your application is at this point, but I'm very pleased to be able to help. And like I said, when we get the money, we keep a list of projects. If you have other projects you want, send them over to us and we will keep them in the file. And then we'll check with you if the money becomes available again.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's great, Tom. We really
Great.
appreciate it. Appreciate you taking your time out tonight to join us as well.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for letting me join you.
Absolutely. Let us know
And
if
if
you
any-
ever.
Bye, Tom.
If anybody has any need for help with the state, my office is, we're working remotely, harder than ever. I have to tell you, just because the phone calls are forwarded to one of my staff members' home. So she gets calls, so I just want to tell everybody, please don't call after 5 o'clock, because they're getting forwarded to her house while she's having dinner or whatever. So, but you call between 9 and 5, and we will try to respond. We're working remotely. I only have 4 staff members, 2 in Albany, 2 here in Westchester, but they're all working remotely. They're all working. I'm amazed. Sometimes it was a Sunday night. I sent an email to my staff and said, tomorrow morning, first thing, take a look at this. And I have a young staff member who is just out of college and very aggressive. She's an hour later, she had done it. And it was like 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, and I said, I really didn't mean for you to do this on a Sunday night. And she said, no problem. So we're trying really hard to respond to problems that our constituents have, whether it's COVID related or just regular stuff, because people are having questions with motor vehicles and things like that, because a lot of that stuff is closed down. But there are answers to those questions. So thank you for letting me join you.
Thanks so much, Tom. Have a great
Tom,
night.
thank you.
Bye, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Thank you. Let me there we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now back to the originally scheduled meeting. Thank you. Thanks again, Tom, and thanks for your help. First, we have an announcement. We had a check over $25,000. It was for $41,252. It went to JC Land and Site Development as part of the Matheson Park renovation out of the capital account. I guess the other announcement I'll make is, now that we have some nice weather, and this weekend was phenomenal, probably the best weather weekend we'll have all year, we have seen obviously an increased use of our parks. We have to keep reminding people of the rules. In Scenic Hudson, there are no dogs, there are no bikes. Use of masks is mandatory. If you don't have a mask, you're not going to be let in. There's just no way to keep social distance when it's so crowded, and also the paths themselves aren't very wide. So if you're in the Irvington Woods, you could probably get away without a mask, but why not bring one anyway in case you do run across people? But in Scenic Hudson, you're definitely going to need one. Halsey Pond, you're definitely going to need one. The governor's executive order was pretty clear. If you can't maintain social distance, you have to use a mask. So it's very black and white. We have been enforcing it. Unfortunately, we have to, post a police officer at Scenic Hudson because of, people the small minority of people not listening to the rules, and then just the amount of the people there as well. So we appreciate the help from IPD. We appreciate the rec department. Also, adjusting so many different things from staffing to procedures to signage, everything to keep that open. So we do want to keep it open as long as possible. It'd probably be much easier on everybody if we just closed it, but we know how important it is to people to be able to get outside and taking those views, especially when it's so, wonderful outside weather-wise.
So I have a question about Scenic Hudson, Brian, maybe you know, or Larry knows. So this morning I saw there was a new sign that said no fishing. And I just wondered how that developed. I don't, or maybe you don't know about it. I can, okay. It says, it's along the, it says no fishing from the bulkhead. And anyway, there weren't any fishermen there this morning anyway, but I just wondered what had happened with that.
I don't know. That's one I was not involved in the discussion on. So,
All right.
anything else? Anybody have any other questions?
Brian, do you know if there are any plans as far as Memorial Day is concerned?
We are working on an alternate plan. It's going to be dramatically scaled back. We were actually hoping, as you know, to expand Memorial Day this year. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem appropriate to invite people out in groups. And it's impossible the way we're situated to kind of have, you know, small pens 6 feet across, 6 feet apart. So I think what we're planning on doing is having a very small, so we're actually working on the details this week. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you're right.
Coming up with a scaled back program that'll still be appropriate to commemorate the day, maybe involving any of you that want to participate, maybe live streaming it as people want to, you know, watch from home. But, you know, kind of a small ceremony, probably just at on Main Street, but just so we commemorate the day. You know, those we've lost are not forgotten, but unfortunately, as we were trying to ramp it up, we've had to ramp it back dramatically.
But I'm glad that we're addressing it because it is an important day.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, more to come on that as we get some more details. So my guess it would be a handful of us at a ceremony. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You know, one other thing that I keep meaning to send out an email about is all the online resources at the library. They're still, just because the library is physically closed doesn't mean that, you know, you can't have access to a lot of the resources. So if you go to the library website, you can get a lot of the information on there. Everything from movies, as Mark knows, to, you know, reference materials and even, you know, online books and things like that. So there are a lot of, there's still a lot of resources you can access there. But if there's no other announcements, I'll move on to correspondence, of which I believe there was none, Larry.
No.
And we will open it up to any public comments from either Tom or the call-in user one.
So if anyone's interested in making a comment, they can raise their hand, although I don't know how that works with calling in. They can. Okay.
Okay, well, there's a chance.
Nothing yet.
Next is the consent agenda. Did anyone have any questions on the consent agenda? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, we have, Larry, did you want to share your screen, or, I mean, I can, you don't
I
have
can
to.
if you want. Yeah.
I can work off my PDF here too.
Do you need to?
Nope.
Does everyone want to see the agenda, or?
I have it on my phone here, so.
I've got it on my iPad.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. We'll leave it like this. If we have to bring up a document, I can pull it up.
perfect. So the next item up is a volunteer appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Mark and I had met with Charlie Flock, it seems like about 30 years ago now. I think it was probably late February, early March.
Yeah, that's about right.
But we're happy he accepted our invitation to be appointed. He's a long-term resident, and we think he'll make a good member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We resolved to appoint Charles Flock as second alternate of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term effective May 4th, 2020, and to expire December of 2020. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is actually a big item. Approval of a memorandum of agreement with the Village of Irvington CSEA unit. You know, I think, you know, to editorialize a little bit, you know, we've had a very, very good working relationship with the CSEA. You know, I think that over the last, I'm going to say at least 5 years, Larry, I feel like we've really worked together to try to achieve common goals. And I think this, once again, we've kind of, being able to get this done relatively quickly. Before, we had the current contract expire. I think this is great. I think it's a good contract for the village. I think it's a good contract for the employees that do so much. So I am super happy to approve this tonight. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, Larry.
Yeah, so I know that the memorandum looks like it's multiple pages long. Really, the majority of what you see there is just articulating some relatively minor housekeeping changes to the contract, corrections, mistakes, things like that. But the meat of the agreement is truly just a very simple contract extension. So no substantial changes were made to the terms of the contract, with the exception of salary increases. The agreement is a 3-year agreement, although the first 2 are locked in, and both of those are at 2% salary increases in each of those 2 years, starting this June 1st and going for another year after that. The 3rd year would be for 2.25%, and either side can opt out of that 3rd year by the end of this calendar year, by December 31st, 2020. So if either party to this agreement decides that the 3rd year is no longer advantageous for them, they can unilaterally opt out of the 3rd year. So it becomes a 2-year contract essentially. And really the basis, the reasoning for that is just because of the level of uncertainty in which we're doing this agreement. We did want to provide a positive vote of confidence for the members of the CSEA, and we're satisfied. But the 3rd year was problematic when you have so little visibility in terms of the financial horizon here. So it gives each side an option, and that's all. But if everything goes as planned, we'll revisit this in December, decide whether the 3rd year is advantageous for us, and I'm sure the union will go through the same process. And if neither one opts out, then it's a 3-year contract. That's it. So it's a contract extension in its essence. It's a simple contract extension that took 5 pages to write.
We both have lawyers, so.
Well, no, it was, and again, they're all housekeeping. So actually lawyers weren't involved at all, frankly, just to write up the changes.
I think it exhibits, a good level of cooperation and a show of good faith on both sides. So
Yes, agreed.
I think it's a win-win.
Yep. Good. All right.
So, resolved to approve a memorandum of agreement dated April 21st, 2020, in settlement of a collective bargaining agreement of the Irvington Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., Local 1000, of the AFSCME AFL-CIO, Local 860, Village of Irvington Union, with the term of June 1st, 2020 to May 31st, 2023. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next up is approval of Labor Council retainer agreement.
So not so coincidentally, this is on the agenda. The agreement had expired back in February, but the amount of the retainer was really dependent upon how many union contracts we had to settle. That's what the retainer covers. And so because the CSEA is off the table for the entire duration of this agreement, the retainer agreement is somewhat less than it has been in the past. It's $15,000 a year versus 20, and the services will be used, to settle the police contract, which will, believe it or not, be up at a year from now.
Okay.
Any questions?
No questions. Resolved to renew the retainer agreement with the firm of Bond, Shlelnick & King for the Labor Council services and authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is authorizing a tax certiorari agreement with the Burnham Building, Inc. Brenda, you want to walk us through this one?
Sure, I can do that. This has been a scheduled certiorari. Ed Lammers, who handles them for us, advised us. Originally, the estimate was going to be about $35,000, so it is significantly less than the original projected amounts. The settlement will probably not affect the budget we're in. We budgeted for next year, and that's when it will be settled, I would imagine, until the court order comes in. So it's not affecting this year's budget, and it's less than what was budgeted for next year.
Good news. Any questions on this, or I will start my read. Whereas a petition having been filed by Burnham Building, Inc., challenging real property tax assessments on the town of Greenberg's assessment roll with respect to the subject property for the 2016 and 2017 tax years. Burnham Building, 2 Main Street, 2016 and 2017. Whereas practitioners' actions are now pending in Supreme Court, Westchester County, and whereas the town and the petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution, now therefore the village is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with the following terms. 2016, the original assessment $2,939,500, revised to $1,450,000 for a reduction of $1,489,500. And for 2017, the original assessment also $2,939,500. Revised down to $1,500,000, which is a reduction of $1,439,050. The Village of Irvington share of the refund is $22,897.17. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
Okay, we got you.
Wake up, wake up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Larry, the next one, rejection of bids for the joint village paving project. You want to give a little background on that?
Sure. Well, as you know, it's been a number of years that we've been bidding out the contract for paving and milling and paving with our local villages in a consortium. This year, make it very simple, the prices were not good. Not sure what the reason was. The bid opening was just as the crisis was happening, just around the time that the price of oil was crashing, a whole bunch of different factors. So, but regardless of those negative influences, the pricing wasn't good either. So all of the villages agreed to that this bid and all the bids should be rejected, and we will be rebidding this in some fashion. I think we also some of the villages may need to relook at how much they're allocating for paving, just for financial reasons. They may have to reconsider. I don't think that this necessarily changes Irvington's amount of paving at this point, but other villages are in different situations. So we'll be rebidding it, and that's the reason for the rejection right now.
Whereas the Village of Irvington is in a cooperative relationship with the villages of Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry, Elmsford, Hastings, and Tarrytown, has solicited bids for the milling and resurfacing of various streets in the Village of Irvington and partner municipalities referenced above. And whereas the Village of Irvington and partner municipalities have reviewed all bids received, now therefore be it resolved to reject all bids received for the joint village paving project. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mhm.
Only a few more. Don't lose momentum here. Authorization to approve change order number 1 for the Matheson Park Playground renovation project.
So fairly simple change order, but a necessary one, obviously. There was some exploratory work that was needed out in the field to confirm the sizes of water lines that will ultimately be feeding the splash pad. And there was some concern that the lines may have been undersized. So there was a little bit of digging that had to happen and some, exploratory research to do that. Turns out, we're in good shape in terms of water lines. We now know exactly what we have on our hands. And there was a cost to having a machine running like that. And that's this amount of the change order.
Pretty small.
Well,
Resolved to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $2,424.30 for the test pits for lines and trench cleanup and to authorize the village administrator to execute said change orders. I'll make a motion. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Now reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. Let's go with Mark.
Yeah, I don't really have too much, but just to let people know that the Tree Commission is basically not accepting permits at the moment because the state is not really allowing any sort of tree maintenance work in terms of things that might be considered cosmetic, et cetera. The only thing really allowed is emergency work, and the Tree Commission is accepting, or the village clerk's office is accepting emergency permit requests, and they're getting processed very quickly. So that's just an FYI.
Great. Larry? Lonky?
Just again, echoing Brian's comments early, Scenic Hudson Park has gotten a tremendous amount of use, particularly on the weekends, particularly this past weekend. And I just want to give a special thank you to the IPD, the police department, for stationing an officer there really to help control it. I was down there around 3:30 yesterday, and it was crowded. We took one walk around the loop, and my wife was too stressed. I mean, everybody was wearing masks, but there were a lot of people, and it was kind of stressful. It really wasn't all that enjoyable with that many people. But with police officers in front, you felt that it was actually closed down for a while. There'll be a statement on or around May 15th regarding summer camp. I think they're still waiting for some guidance from the county. The county's waiting for some guidance from the state, and the state is saying the county can make that decision, and Joe can't make that decision until we hear from some higher ups. Close to 700 home deliveries have been made, with another 80 to 90 expected to go out this week. Hand in hand with that, Joe gave me a list, and there are a number of names on this list, but I do want to read them off because these people and families have been really instrumental in helping with our seniors and with people in need. So just bear with me. I'm going to read out a handful of names. The Dorigo family, the Giliberti family, Joe Dumas, Irvington Hardware, Francis O'Shea, Leo Penzine, the Grados family, Noreen Degnan, the Maness family, Della Lentz, Chet Kerr, Pete Warnicki, Mike Foley, the Irvington Police Benevolent Association, Dave Walsh, Elaine Cardia, the Hall family, Jordanes, and the entire staff at the rec. Please consider donating to the work taking care of seniors and families in need. And last, and I know very stressful for Joe, the telephones are not working at the office. Computers are also not working at full capacity. So residents, please call 914-591-8217 for call, or text to 914-760-8657 for questions and to receive help. That's it.
I did mention the computer problems to Tom Abenanti, since it's kind of a state issue, and he promised he would look into it for us. I think we're going to follow up with him this week. So
We heard,
Problematic and stressful.
yeah, and we heard the county, the county's on the case as well because we're on their system, and the county, I guess, did get a call back from Cablevision over the weekend, and they're working on scheduling a time. It's just, it's been enormously frustrating, as you can imagine.
Is it just the recreation department?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, it's a simple,
Yeah.
some simple connection problem, but we can't control it.
Okay, I don't have any report, but I did have a question. Larry Lonky, did you say that the police needed to actually keep people out for a while because of the
I
number?
know it was closed to traffic. I'm not sure if it was
traffic.
closed to people walking in, but I know that every parking spot was taken
Right.
and that cars were turning around. I don't know if it was closed to people entering or not. It wasn't when I was there.
Right. I would say that my experience down there, but I've kind of picked times that I expected to be less crowded, have been perfectly wonderful. You know, when there aren't a whole lot of people, though I don't mind, you know, people. It's kind of
Well, I went down at 3:30 yesterday because I wanted it to be
Wanted to
crowded. I
see
wanted to see what was going on, right?
You got it.
I went,
Right, I got it.
but you know, as a word to, you know, people with flexibility, you know, just choose the other times. It's and certainly in terms of parking, there are a million places to park, not in the particular lot, but every place that used to have people near the train station, they're just thousands of parking places. So not that we need thousands of people, but parking shouldn't be a problem. But I would, you know, commend the police and the rec department too. That I think the park is, you know, lovely, and people that I've seen have been, you know, like 99% seem to be perfectly fine with all the rules, and you know, it's been a delightful experience that we have that park. I don't have any other report.
Great.
Briefly, the fire department has been able to do their monthly maintenance check with full gear and social distancing, and they have been engaging in online training, which is great because people have been able to do several courses, which is works out very well. They've also done 11 birthday drive-bys, and since one of them was down the street from me, I can testify that they are loud and enthusiastic and very well received. So 11, it's a main one.
Great.
you.
Village administrators report.
So the Station Road Sidewalk project, I think the contractor started mobilizing today. We'll be putting out a notice very first thing tomorrow morning that the detours will be up and in effect starting tomorrow. But as we've notified people, the residents will still have access to their houses and driveways, the local residents, but there won't be any through traffic allowed. And again, that'll be, if everything goes as scheduled, that'll be for the months of May and June, and then they'll be shifting over to Main Street, which time we'll start a whole other series of notifications to get people prepared. That's it.
I mentioned the FEMA at all, Larry? We were working on the FEMA application.
You can go right ahead.
Okay, oh.
Since you did a lot of the work.
Right. We did a lot of it also. Larry and I have been working on the FEMA application to see what kind of money we can have reimbursed to the village. It seems that they will allow submission for the meals that have been provided to the at-risk community, the elderly people in the village. So we were putting together salary and cost of transportation, all the food that was used. So if we get the money back, it would help our budget in reimbursing for the salaries. And if it comes back for the food, we'll get it back to the Families in Need line and replenish that line. So we'll see.
We'll see, yeah.
We don't know. We're looking for actually any opportunity for funding or grants that are available. So that's one of them.
Great. I assume that's the full village clerk treasurer's report. I don't want to cut you off, Brenda.
No, otherwise it's regular business for us, just with a smaller staff daily. Still doing bank recs, still doing, that's reconciliations, still doing water billing, water collection of money. We're getting ready for the tax bill at the end of the month and to implement the new budget and then to wind down the current fiscal year. So I don't know when we would have an audit at this point, but we'll be prepared. Maybe it'll be remote. Which is actually, many of the documents, they're all available. We send them in advance of them coming for the physical audit. So I think we can probably, accomplish it similarly as they were coming, but just send the documents. And they can request documents and we can scan them and send them.
Yep, we'll see.
We'll see.
Like your background of your
Like that.
I was going to say, what is that?
That's very cool. I've been watching it.
Northern Lights,
I
right?
think the Northern Lights, yeah, I see like the woods in the background.
Yeah.
Oh.
Northern Lights.
It's clearly in Iceland, everyone.
Maybe we should
Where
all
are
convert our backgrounds to Northern Lights. That would be quite effective.
Yeah, make people nauseous.
you?
So this isn't really a official report, but I just wanted to mention two things. For those who are interested, the local nurseries are actually starting to open up again, like Rosedale and so forth, and they actually have plants and vegetable starts, which is great to get a garden started. But that's the second comment is this weekend. Watch out, Friday and Saturday night. The temperatures are getting very low.
Yeah.
So you got to keep an eye out if you've got your tomatoes out already.
Brian, I actually had a report.
Sure, you're next.
I don't, only that, that the planning board is going to be meeting on Wednesday night. They're going to meet remotely. We had our pre-planning board meeting this morning, the same time. And the applications we have until last month, we were getting hard copies of all the applications, big, masses of papers and plans. But Ed decided to just have us deal with them online, so we just see the documents online, which will be, I assume, the case with all the planning board members. Anyway, we'll see how the meeting goes. It's worked fine with staff and with Caesar. But as I said, there's a meeting this Wednesday. There's 3 applications on. Actually 4 applications on, but 3 people made new submissions in this, new system. And, so I guess one of the good things that's happening is we're like fast forwarding to just electronic applications rather than having these huge masses of papers. I don't know what has to be submitted. I have no idea, but do you know that, Larry? Has the number of copies of stuff been changed?
I think that they've reduced it down to 3 copies, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very low number. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was the plan all along. Yeah, that was what the intention was.
I don't think this quickly. It wasn't supposed to
No,
happen
no,
this quickly.
no.
But it's worked, and the meeting. We'll have to see how the big meeting goes, but the pre-meeting went just fine.
Great.
These are the varying degrees of techie, of technical ability
Sure.
among us. It worked well.
I was just going to say that I sat in the last ARB, which they did the same thing. It was all electronic, and that actually went pretty smoothly. In fact, as a viewer, it was much nicer because you could see the
You can see the
electronic
plans.
documents. Yeah, right. You could actually see them.
Yeah, well, that's true. Even with the staff meeting, so that Doug Hahn is able to get them all up on his screen. He goes into the office or whatever screen, he can get these great big plans on, and then everybody can look at it, and so it actually works quite well.
Good.
Good.
Glad to hear it.
Good to hear. I like it. Any public comment? Looks like there's one dial-in attendee. Review of action items, Larry?
I don't think anything.
I didn't have anything.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Wear your mask
Trying.
outside, social distance, no dogs. Don't bring your dog or your bike to the park.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to adjourn if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.